So, imagine just rolling up your car windows in the middle of an Alabama July.
Oh, man, that
Yeah.
sounds brutal.
Right. I mean, you are sweating completely through your clothes. The humidity is just, it's thick enough to drink.
Yeah,
And you are absolutely terrified that, like, a security guard is about to knock on your glass and arrest you.
because if you roll the window down even an inch to get some air,
Exactly. You're going to be eaten alive by swarms of mosquitoes.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
And for a rapidly growing number of Americans, this isn't, a bad weekend camping trip. It's just Tuesday night in their only home.
Which, honestly, it completely inverts everything we're taught about the car in America.
Totally.
We treat the vehicle as this ultimate symbol of autonomy. It's the open road.
Freedom.
Right. But when you apply the pressure of the current housing market to that symbol, all that autonomy just vanishes.
It really does.
The vehicle just becomes this desperate survival tool. It is the absolute definition of a physical safety net of last resort.
And we have a massive stack of sources to pull from today for this deep dive to understand how we got here.
We really do. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, we're looking at a federal report by the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, that's the USCCH. We have this huge spreadsheet of national HUD point-in-time data.
Plus the local stuff, which I think is where it gets really interesting.
Right, local Alabama news, state grant guidelines from ADECA, nonprofit program structures, and some incredibly raw, real-world Reddit threads.
The Reddit threads are just, they're heartbreaking.
They really are. And our goal today is to understand how this quintessential American getaway vehicle has transformed into a heavily panelized lifeline. Because, you might look out your windshield on your morning commute and just see traffic.
Yeah, it's just people going to work.
But if you look closer at that sedan parked in the back of the Walmart lot, or like that van idling on a side street for an entire hidden demographic, that vehicle is their bedroom. It's their storage unit.
It's the only physical barrier keeping them off the concrete. And trying to actually quantify that hidden demographic is incredibly difficult, largely because the very definition of who counts as homeless when they have a vehicle is just entangled in layers of bureaucracy.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the parameters from HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and honestly, the way they define this seems incredibly frustrating.
Oh, it's totally contradictory.
Right, because according to the federal USCCH report, vehicular homelessness generally covers people living in passenger vehicles, so like cars and vans.
Right.
And HUD considers those people to be experiencing literal unsheltered homelessness. But the moment someone is sleeping in an RV or a camper, HUD suddenly says they aren't homeless.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense to me.
I know, it sounds nuts, but it comes down to how the government categorizes the intended use of a manufactured space.
Okay.
HUD's logic is that RVs and campers are ordinarily used as sleeping accommodations. They're technically designed as dwellings.
So to a data collector.
Exactly. To a data collector, someone in a functioning RV is technically housed. They only consider someone in an RV to be homeless if that vehicle lacks vital utility connections, meaning, the water and sewer aren't hooked up,
Oh, I see.
or if it is in a state of major disrepair, or if it's illegally parked in a non-designated area.
So it's not really about whether you have a permanent address. It's basically about whether your makeshift shelter has plumbing hooked up to city lines.
Precisely. Which means the official data we have is almost certainly this massive undercount.
Right.
But even with those strict exclusionary parameters, the HUD point-in-time, or PIT data, is staggering, though it is highly regional.
Yeah, I noticed that. The numbers vary wildly depending on the geography.
They really do. Look at the data from the Los Angeles Continuum of Care.
And the Continuum of Care, or COSI, that's basically the regional planning body that tracks homelessness funding, right?
Exactly. So the LA COSI reported 71,201 overall homeless individuals. And of those, an unbelievable 49,509 were unsheltered.
Almost 50,000 people.
Yeah. And the USCCH report notes that in Los Angeles, people living in vehicles make up almost half of that entire unsheltered population.
That is just, wow.
Nearly 25,000 people sleeping in vehicles in one single county.
But then, you look at major East Coast cities, places like Boston or New York, where the overall homeless populations are still incredibly high.
Right, very high.
Yet the rates of vehicular homelessness are surprisingly low in comparison.
And that disparity exists because of localized right-to-shelter policies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Boston and New York have local mandates that legally guarantee an emergency shelter bed to anyone who needs one.
So because they have a guaranteed indoor option, even when the temperatures drop, you don't see the same massive encampments of cars.
Exactly. The infrastructure there absorbs a crisis differently.
Meanwhile, out west, in places without enough shelter beds, the car just becomes the default. Like
Mhm.
in Santa Clara County, California, the number of individuals staying in vehicles jumped 146% between 2015 and 2019 alone.
146%. That's a huge spike.
It's wild. I mean, think of the affordable housing market as a sinking cruise ship, and emergency shelters are the lifeboats.
I like that analogy.
But out west, there simply aren't enough seats in those lifeboats. Or maybe, the lifeboats have rigid rules. They don't allow your pets.
Right. Or they require you to separate from your teenage son because he isn't allowed in the women's and children's shelter.
Exactly. So your car becomes this piece of floating debris you cling to in the freezing water. It is never a choice of luxury, right? It's just a desperate alternative to drowning.
That cruise ship analogy captures the lack of agency perfectly. Because while we can talk about tens of thousands of people in these macro-level HUD spreadsheets,
Yeah.
the actual transition from being a housed person to a person living in a sedan, it doesn't happen at a macro level. It happens on a random Tuesday when a single micro-level safety net snaps.
Which is exactly what we see in the local sources we culled from Alabama. We have these two different Reddit threads that just perfectly juxtapose the two entirely different realities of sleeping in a car.
Oh yeah, the tone shift between those two is crazy.
Right. First, you have a thread in the Birmingham subreddit. It's a tourist from the UK, and they are super casual about the whole thing.
Just completely carefree.
Yeah. They're visiting the States in July, planning to drive down to Nashville, and they literally just post asking, like, hey, does anyone know where I can park my car overnight to sleep in?
For them, the car's an adventure.
Exactly. It's a fun road trip hack to save $100 on a hotel room.
Because it's temporary, it's voluntary, and it carries zero psychological weight. They can go home to the UK whenever they want.
But then you switch over to a thread in the Huntsville, Alabama subreddit, and it is a completely different universe.
It really is.
It's a married couple who lost their house during the height of the COVID pandemic, and their story illustrates the mechanics of modern displacement so clearly. They ended up stuck at an extended stay motel.
And if you look closely at how those motels operate, I mean, they are classic poverty traps.
Totally. The weekly rates just bleed you dry, preventing you from ever saving enough for a deposit on a real apartment.
The math they share in that thread is a masterclass in how expensive it is to be poor.
Let's walk through their exact numbers because it's wild. Their rent for a single motel room was $420 a week.
Which is nearly $1,800 a month.
That is often more than a traditional apartment mortgage. But they're trapped there because it doesn't require a credit check or a massive security deposit.
Right.
So the husband explains they thought they had an incoming tax credit that would cover a week, but there was some bureaucratic miscommunication. Suddenly, they owed money.
And to make matters worse, the manager who usually worked with them, who knew their situation, went out for surgery.
Yeah, a new person stepped in and demanded immediate full payment.
They were just completely stripped of the one piece of human leniency they had.
So the husband says they scraped together every single dime they had to their names. It was $620. That covered the missed week and part of the next. But they were still $200 short. And despite handing over everything they had, they were told to pay the remaining $200 immediately or get out.
And 10 minutes later, their entire life is shoved into their car.
Just like that.
And the immediate aftermath is where the physical reality of losing shelter really sets in. You have a car, but you cannot realistically sleep in a car that is packed to the ceiling with your belongings.
No, you can't recline the seats. You can't stretch out.
Exactly. So they drove to his in-laws' old house, which they believed was empty, just hoping to store a few boxes on the porch so they could physically create enough room in the cabin of the car to lay back.
Just to breathe, really.
Yeah. But when they pulled up to the property, the house had been foreclosed.
No, God.
There was a real estate lockbox hanging on the back door. The front doorknob was completely busted off and lying on the ground, and a Michigan Property Management Company sign was staked in the front window.
So they were completely, utterly cut off from any physical space.
What is deeply unsettling about reading that husband's perspective is the immediate psychological toll it takes on them.
Oh, for sure.
The husband is practically begging the internet for a safe place to park because his wife is an absolute nervous wreck.
Yeah.
She's sitting in the passenger seat, hyperventilating, terrified that a security guard or a police officer is going to walk up and tap on the glass at any moment.
That vehicle offers them a metal roof to keep the rain off, but it offers zero legal protection. It provides absolutely no peace of mind.
Right. They are in a state of constant forced vigilance.
And when you look at the crowdsourced survival advice they get from the locals, it paints a very bleak picture of navigating public
This
space.
is basically a guide on how to be invisible.
Yeah. People suggest Walmart parking lots, but they quickly add that you usually need to go inside and beg a manager for permission. And many locations aren't even 24 hours anymore post-COVID.
So you stand out immediately if you're the only car there at 3 a.m.
Exactly. They suggest parking at Cracker Barrel, finding 24-hour churches, or slipping into hospital parking decks.
And the hospital parking deck suggestion is particularly revealing.
How so?
Well, the logic is that security guards will leave a sleeping person alone because they assume you have a critically ill loved one inside the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You're literally relying on the assumption of medical tragedy just to borrow a 9 by 18-foot rectangle of concrete for 6 hours.
That is so dark. And even if you find that concrete, the locals warn them about the unavoidable environmental reality. I mean, it's an Alabama summer.
Right.
People in the comments are flat out telling them you have to roll your windows down or you will literally suffocate in the heat.
But if you crack a window in the Deep South in July,
You are inviting in swarms of mosquitoes. You have to choose between sweltering in an oven or being eaten alive, all while trying to sleep with one eye open.
and that fear of a tap on the glass isn't just paranoia, it's a completely valid survival instinct. Because instead of offering help, many local governments have decided to weaponize city ordinances against these people. The USICH report we have indicates that out of 187 surveyed cities, a full 50% have one or more laws actively restricting living in vehicles.
50%. And we see the immediate consequences of those laws. Look at the local news article we have from Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, the new ordinance.
Right. The city council recently introduced a new ordinance specifically to deal with campsites and people living on public property, citing public health issues. The punishment for violating this ordinance, a fine of anywhere from $100 to $500.
Which, it's just, wait, hold on. This is the part that genuinely baffles me. If someone is sleeping in a 2008 Honda Civic because they literally could not afford to pay $200 for their motel rent,
Right.
how on earth does the city council think slapping them with a $500 fine fixes the problem? Are they not just issuing a massive financial penalty for the crime of being broke?
It seems completely contradictory, right? If
Yeah.
you assume the goal of the fine is to generate compliance or like to actually help the person.
Yeah. But historically, the goal of these municipal fines isn't to collect the money. The goal is displacement.
Ah, okay.
The fine is a geographic tool. It's designed to make existing within those city limits so incredibly uncomfortable, expensive, and legally perilous that the person is eventually forced to just start their engine and drive to the next county over.
Wow. So it's essentially out of sight, out of mind, legislated through compounding debt.
Exactly. Because if you can't pay the $500, your license gets suspended.
And if your license is suspended and you are caught driving your bedroom, the vehicle gets impounded.
And once your home is impounded, you are on the sidewalk.
You see the absurdity of trying to navigate these hostile laws in the Boondockers Bible source we review.
Oh, that website is fascinating.
It is. It's a website dedicated to RV and car camping survival. And they explicitly outline these legal gray areas. Like, they explain that Alabama rest areas, for example, do not have an official statewide ban on overnight parking.
Right, but
But individual rest areas post signs that say no long-term parking, but they provide absolutely no legal definition of what long-term means. Is it 2 hours? Is it 8 hours?
it's entirely at the discretion of whoever is patrolling the lot.
Exactly. So the Boondockers Bible gives this incredibly dystopian advice. They say, if you have to sleep there, you must stay inside the car, you must not draw any attention to yourself, and, quote, act like someone who is too exhausted to do much of anything.
Oh, man.
You literally have to perform physical exhaustion to justify taking up physical space without getting fined.
And the criminalization of these basic survival tactics has sparked massive legal pushback.
It really has. We have an article detailing a major federal lawsuit in Montgomery, Alabama. And, looking strictly at the legal facts of the case here, we're not taking a political side or endorsing any broader views.
No.
But the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ACLU sued the city, the county, and the state.
Over local laws that effectively criminalize soliciting donations and begging, right?
Yes, exactly. The organizations were representing individuals like Jonathan Singleton. He was a homeless man suffering from kidney failure and diabetes. He relied entirely on the help of others to survive, and he was arrested 6 times simply for holding signs mentioning his medical situation.
The sheer volume of enforcement there is just staggering. The report notes that in just a 2-year window, over 200 citations were issued in Montgomery alone for soliciting charitable donations,
200 citations.
issued to people asking for spare change.
But the federal judge presiding over the case ultimately issued a permanent injunction against the city.
Okay, so what did the ruling say?
The judge ruled that these anti-panhandling laws fundamentally violate the First Amendment's protection of free speech. The ruling essentially states that a city cannot criminalize a person's charitable appeal for funds. You just cannot arrest someone for holding a piece of cardboard asking for help.
Which forces a major pivot in how communities handle this. Because the stick of criminalization issuing fines, taking away vehicles, arresting people for holding signs, it often just exacerbates the root causes of extreme poverty.
It pushes them further down.
Exactly. Recognizing this, some municipalities and grassroots organizations are realizing they have to build carrots instead. They have to engineer constructive infrastructure.
Let's explore those solutions because the USCH report outlines some really innovative approaches, specifically these safe parking programs.
Yeah, these are super
The
interesting.
very first recognized program actually started over 2 decades ago, back in 2004 in Santa Barbara, California. And these aren't just like empty lots.
Right, they provide sanctioned, designated parking areas where people can sleep legally without fear of a security guard tapping on the glass.
They offer basic human dignity, sanitation through portable toilets and hand washing stations, Wi-Fi access so people can actually apply for jobs, and most importantly, security.
And when you look at the demographic data coming out of those safe parking lots, it completely shatters the stereotypical image of who is sleeping in their car.
How so?
Well, in the Santa Barbara program, 84% of the vehicle residents are over the age of 55.
Over 55. That's retirement age.
Yeah. And in San Diego's safe parking program, 20% of the participants are families with children. Nearly half are over 50. Perhaps most tellingly, almost 70% of the people in the program stated that this current housing crisis was their only experience with homelessness in the past 3 years.
So these are not chronic cases.
Exactly. These are folks who were stably housed, got hit by a sudden economic shock, like a medical bill, a rent hike, a lost job, and fell straight into their vehicles.
But the USACH report details this absolutely infuriating bureaucratic trapdoor that these folks hit when they try to get state assistance.
Oh, the asset issue.
Yes. When these individuals go to a benefits office to apply for food stamps or housing vouchers, owning that vehicle can actively block them from getting help. Many income-based benefit programs classify a vehicle as an asset.
It is the ultimate paradox of the social safety net.
It really is.
I mean, the car is the physical shelter keeping you alive and out of the rain.
Right.
But on paper, the Blue Book value of a 10-year-old sedan might be $3,000.
Right.
So the government looks at your file, sees a $3,000 asset, and determines you are too wealthy to qualify for emergency assistance. The exact tool keeping you alive is the weight pulling you down in the bureaucracy.
It is maddening. But thankfully, there is institutional funding attempting to bypass that trapdoor. In Alabama, the state government runs ADECA, the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs.
Right.
They administer these Emergency Solutions Grants, or ESG. This is federal HUD money that gets passed down to the state level to distribute to local nonprofits and city governments.
And what does that money actually do?
It is specifically designed to fund rapid rehousing, moving costs, utility deposits, and case management to intercept people before they lose their vehicles entirely.
That top-down financial approach is vital. But the grassroots, community-level approach is just as essential for long-term stability. Look at the First Fruits Ministry in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah. First Fruits runs a program called Cars for Purpose, and their philosophy is brilliant. They look at the car not as a municipal nuisance and certainly not as a disqualifying financial asset.
Right.
They view the vehicle as the ultimate lifeline to escaping poverty.
Because their entire operational model recognizes a geographic reality. In a sprawling southern city with severely limited public transit infrastructure, lacking a reliable car is a virtual guarantee of continued poverty.
You literally cannot get to a well-paying job, you can't take your kids to daycare, and you cannot get to a grocery store without one.
Exactly. So they provide low-cost, mechanic-inspected cars to women living in difficult situations.
The source shares the story of a woman named Chantel. First fruits exist because they understand that low-income women with poor credit scores are incredibly vulnerable.
They really are. They often get trapped taking out predatory high-interest auto loans just to secure the transportation required to maintain their employment.
Right. And First Fruits steps in to break that vicious cycle by providing reliable transportation affordably, allowing these women to build actual savings instead of paying off exorbitant interest rates.
When you synthesize all of these sources, the federal data, the Reddit threads, the local laws, and the nonprofit strategies, the vehicle emerges as this incredibly complex mechanism.
It really does.
In the eyes of municipal law enforcement, it is an illegal residence to be fined. In the eyes of a state benefits office, it is a disqualifying financial asset to be penalized.
Yeah.
But in the eyes of the people living the reality, and programs like First Fruits, it is the fundamental stepping stone to economic survival.
It is a lifeline disguised to the rest of the world as a liability. Vehicular homelessness is this intense intersection of the affordable housing crisis, colliding head-on with legal gray areas, zoning laws, and just raw human resilience.
Truly.
And, behind every single digit in that massive HUD point-in-time spreadsheet are people exactly like that couple in Huntsville. Just a regular husband and wife pushed out of an extended stay motel over a couple $100s, desperately scanning the internet to figure out where they can park a sedan to survive an Alabama summer night without being arrested.
And as we trace this trajectory forward, it forces us to ask a profound question about the future of our physical environment.
What do you mean?
Well, if traditional housing continues to drastically outpace middle-class wages, and these designated safe parking lot programs prove to be the most successful immediate intervention,
Yeah.
will future city planning have to officially adapt?
Yeah.
Will we eventually see municipal zoning incorporate what we might call vehicular architecture?
Vehicular architecture. Wow. I can almost picture it. If the car is becoming the new baseline for affordable housing, will we eventually see existing municipal parking garages fundamentally redesigned?
Think about it.
Instead of just flat concrete slabs meant for storing empty vehicles while people work, imagine spaces explicitly zoned, plumbed, and wired as subsidized drive-in residential neighborhoods.
Like a high-rise parking deck that functions as a fully integrated apartment building for vehicles, with communal kitchens and shower facilities on every floor.
It is a wild, slightly dystopian, yet entirely plausible thought, given the data we've unpacked today. It brings us right back to our starting point. The car has always been the ultimate symbol of American freedom.
Right.
But maybe, as the housing market continues to evolve, the freedom to hit the open road is quietly being replaced by a much more desperate freedom.
The freedom to simply park, roll the windows down, and sleep in peace.
Keep questioning the world around you. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.